Here's another important video from the Personsal Defense Network.
Okay, I've set the gun up again. We're going to practice doing this with the support hand only, the other hand. The technique is going to be pretty much identical barring a few things, and those are the things I need to identify right now. This hand is going to be a tougher hand to do your emergency reload with. So when you're practicing this hand, spend the most time with this particular hand. Your strong hand emergency reload, I mean, typically you do that when you're on the range over and over and over again. Granted, you use the other hand to grab the magazine, but you really know how to operate the handgun primarily with your strong hand. So I would recommend training about 60 or 70% of your time with your support hand only stuff. It's by far going to be the toughest technique for you to do when you're under stress. So obviously we want to work on whatever is going to be the toughest or weakest area before we work on our strengths, and then work on our strengths later. So for the support hand only emergency reload, obviously I'm in the middle of a fight, bam, 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 slide locks to the rear. So my first consideration is, how do I get the magazine out of the gun with my support hand? Once again, typically if you're a right-handed shooter and your gun is set up with that magazine release on this side of the gun or the left side of the gun, I'm simply going to reach around with my index finger and I'm going to hit that magazine release. If you can't reach it with your index finger, you're in some trouble there, because you have to figure out how to initiate that magazine release. I've seen some folks that do it with their middle finger. The problem with doing it with your middle finger is, if you notice, the grip of the gun itself is only in 2 fingers now. So my dexterity is going down, 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 farther, farther, farther. So the stress is up, the adrenaline is pumping through my system. The last thing that I want to do is hold the handgun in a live fight, possibly while I'm moving to position to cover with 2 fingers themselves. So I'm simply going to tell you to figure out how to do with your index finger. If you need to shift your hand on the gun a little bit, once again, we talked about with a strong hand, practicing that gun shift in your hand. Grow that dexterity a little bit while you're watching TV. I'm going to simply release the magazine with my index finger, keeping the gun straight up and down. If you get in the bad habit of canting the gun during this technique, you're going to find that those of you that are shooters that maybe carry Glocks or other guns where the magazines don't drop out quite as freely, they may hang up. So the reason they hang up is because when you cant the gun, gravity is working against the friction of the mag well itself. So make sure to keep the gun upright when you hit that magazine release. Press it aggressively and let the magazine fall to the ground. The rest of the reload is primarily the same. I'm simply going to secure it with whatever method. And notice, if I'm doing a support hand only reload technique and I'm carrying a holster on my strong side, it may be very difficult for me to secure the gun in that holster. However, if I can secure it in the holster, and I have a holster that's once again non-collapsible, I will simply secure the handgun in the holster and perform my reload. Because I've trained with this holster, I know that if I let go of the handgun, I've got about a 1 in 5 chance that it's going to fall out on the ground. I'm not going to utilize that method today. So I'm going to default to my belt, a different securing location, or between my knees. And I found that more consistency is the key. And if I do a technique between my knees, I'm normally faster and more consistent. And I know I can utilize my knees anytime I need to. So I'm simply going to secure the handgun between my knees, making sure it's nice and secure. Once again, if you notice, this muzzle is horizontal with my knees, and that's really a critical point. So you're really securing the handgun, and I'm actually pressing my knees together, grab the new magazine out of my mag pouch, just like I normally would during a normal reload, insert it aggressively, tug, make sure it's in there, because once again, we don't want to end up in a circumstance where the magazine is not inside the gun. Now, if I'm already between my knees, I'm probably going to default to the knee method of the slide release. However, if I wanted to and I can reach it, I can also initiate the slide release with my index finger. Now, those of you that have firearms with a slide release lever that's a little bit flat or maybe a little bit more difficult to utilize, that's going to be a tough method for you. So what I would recommend for you is, we're using the knee method. Simply, while you're there, you've inserted the magazine inside the gun, you've checked and made sure it was secure, simply press down and away and use your knee method to release that slide and get back in the fight. All of the other techniques remain the same.
Check out more videos just like this one at the Personsal Defense Network.